I think the reason that I never got around to watching Blade Runner was because it, like, was extremely, what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for?
Overwhelming. It was so overwhelming.
This cut, and then this cut was released, and then this cut was released. So I watched the final cut. I kind of forgot that it was Ridley Scott, which was a really nice surprise. Every single shot of that movie there was so much energy put into it, creative care and love. I understand why so many people in film school were obsessed with it. When you are lighting a movie scene, you know, you have the basic like 3-up light, key light, fill light, backlight, all that stuff, kind of what's going on with my video right now. When you are doing a cinematic sort of, you know, drama piece like this, you want to kind of use the lighting in the scene. You know, if there's a window and then you're doing close-ups and the window's on the right side of the actors' faces, you can have the light shining through and then have half their faces lit. And this movie like uses a lot of the environment through this lighting idea. It was super clear for somebody to see. You know, you have the ships flying overhead, and so you have these kind of spotlights traveling throughout the scene. With some modern sci-fi today, you know, they'll throw in all of these like different lights and all these crazy things that look really, really cool, but don't really have a purpose. And this movie didn't feel that way. Like, I never felt like they were going out of their way to be like, how interesting and weird and quirky can we make this shot with the lights? It's like, oh, there's lots of neon lights everywhere. We're gonna place the actors in places where these lights would kind of take over the scene. It seems like these were all built sets, which just like, I mean, it completely blew me away. Now, what's weird is, since there wasn't that much of a story, it completely captured me in a way that's really hard to describe. It's almost like being in a trance. The only other time this has really ever happened to me was when I was watching some Salvador Dali films in film school and a lot of David Lynch's work. I was taking in the footage in front of me and understanding what was happening, but it also made time go quicker. It's almost like, it's like being hypnotized. And I specifically felt that during the ending monologue of this movie, you know, the we all fade away like tears in the rain, from the android guy.
All those moments will be lost in time. Like tears in rain.
I couldn't really tell you people's names in the movie, which is really interesting because normally like characters really grab me. I was a little confused in places. That didn't stop my enjoyment of the movie. The movie kind of deals with this very cliche, which probably wasn't cliche at the time. Robots, revolting, having human intelligence. The first thing I asked in the beginning of the movie, I was like, why do people keep making robots that basically have human emotions or can develop human emotions? Like, wouldn't you put a failsafe in there? Which I did like that the movie did acknowledge that after I saw the little prologue opening text thing. And it said that they gave them a 4-year lifespan, which I thought that was really, really interesting. But I expected to automatically, because I am a Battlestar Galactica fan, and a Terminator fan, and a Raised by Wolves fan, and an Alien fan, I expected to gain empathy. Like, I thought the point of the movie was gonna be like, these android replicant robot people deserve to live, and here is why, which is pretty much what Battlestar Galactica goes into.
What do you want from me, Hilo? She's a Cylon.
And all the other shows that have to do with androids is like, you know, sometimes the most human among all of us are the ones that are not. That's kind of what I expected, and I actually found that watching this movie, you know, in 2021, I was happy that the androids were different than humans, like did not have the same sort of empathy that we have as humans. And I love this whole idea of them developing their own moral code. I almost wish that the movie kind of like explored that a little bit more. The movie touched me in a way that's really, it's difficult to put into words. And then the movie got me starting to think, and in the middle of it, I went, why do new modern movies almost, like, they don't feel like this? And it was specifically during the scene, oh my God, where there was background music. I think it was a saxophone, and Rachel, the android that Decker kind of like, I wouldn't know if falls in love with is the term, because they have this whole like assault type situation.
You kiss me.
I don't really know how I feel about that. You can talk about that in the comments if you want to. And then Rachel got on the piano, and the piano like matched the background music. And then it like cut to her like putting up her hair. And every single shot was perfect, was beautiful, was interesting, and that's arguably what keeps the movie like really moving. It's like the pace is from its visual aesthetic, which is funny because there are movies like 300 that are also like purely visual aesthetic, but like why is that different? And I think it truly comes down to like having, in older movies, having to like build the things, and you couldn't CGI, you know, the shimmer in their eyes. That's actually one of the things I remember from film school, is that the shimmer in the replicant's eyes is from some, I forget the name of the guy who created the theory, but it's like when basically they had a mirror at a 45-degree angle with the camera that reflected light into the actor's eyes and gave them this like shimmer effect. And I just think that like when you are specifically filming on analog film, you're not using digital film, you can't just like quickly throw stuff together. Analog film was really, really expensive. It got me thinking about like old film, new film. The world building was what made it so enticing. It was like everything they showed me was interesting. You know, how the animals are assumed to be extinct, and then you got the guy who's old but is actually 26, and how these little pieces of life and things just sort of told you more about the world. It reminded me of like Mad Max Fury Road, where you just get to travel through these little locations and then use your own imagination to figure out how these people live, how they work, how we got to this point. I do think it's really funny that the movie takes place in 2019, and I kept being like, why don't people pick later dates? Like, I understand you want it to be close to the future, but this movie would be fine if it just said Los Angeles sometime in the near future. The use of photographs in the movie, in terms of how we use photographs now, that's not a thing. I loved the video phone moment where it was like you could go to a payphone, but it was a video phone. Maybe they'll do that eventually, but not really, because everybody has cell phones, so strike that. Let me know how I should feel about the assault scene, because I don't know if it's like it was just weird. I don't know if there's like a point to it, or if that was just like a product of the time. But it wasn't a comfortable scene, and I knew I wasn't supposed to be comfortable because the music actually changes. It had this like beautiful saxophone. And then it got like really dark. And then like when he kisses her though, it like goes back to being soft music. So I didn't know if subconsciously they were trying to tell me like, this is okay, this is consensual, when it didn't seem consensual.
You kiss me.
I'm trying to put myself back in the 80s, and it's like, Did people feel the way we feel about the idea of androids now? Because we've seen so much media where it's like, they are just as human as you or I. I also have this horrible pet peeve that in a lot of sci-fi, they do the blow up and enhance when they're looking at a picture, because it's impossible. If you've ever zoomed in on a digital photo, it just creates all these pixels, and that's how the image is actually created digitally, so you can't zoom in on it and like clear it up. In this movie, they were still using analog pictures, and so the part where he like zooms in really far into this image and then finds the snake and the woman in bed like in the mirror all the way zoomed in.
Yeah, it's 34 to 46.
Like, that was a little bit more practical, because I was like, oh, it seems like an analog picture, and in an analog image you actually can zoom in to a point. It will get blurry, but it's not going to be like digital boxes. It will blend together seamlessly. I probably will watch the new Blade Runner just because I'm kind of like, I'm curious. I don't have high hopes, but maybe I'll be surprised. I'm just kind of like, maybe, I don't know. I hope it's almost like, why? I know that it's like a sequel, I think, or like maybe a redo. And that's it.